You can support this podcast by visiting patreon.com/The Murder in My Family. This episode may contain unsettling material or subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Imagine for a moment that you're a young and eager real estate agent in your 20s. A real go-getter that's following in your family's footsteps. Then you get a call that probably every real estate agent has dreamed of at some point. A potential buyer with a lot of money to spend who is being transferred and needs to buy a home as soon as possible. That's exactly what happened to 24-year-old Lindsay Buziak in 2008. It may sound like a scenario that's too good to be true, and in fact, something about the potential sale didn't sit right with Lindsay. Despite proceeding with caution, Lindsay decided to meet her potential buyers in person to show them the perfect home, and it wound up costing Lindsay her life. Lindsay's murder would shock her community and devastate her family and friends. Her case would go on to become one of the most puzzling and mysterious cases to come out of Canada. Lindsay lived in Victoria, British Columbia, a city of less than 500,000 people. Following her father Jeff's footsteps, Lindsay became involved in real estate in 2007. She took a job as an agent working for a local RE/MAX agency alongside her boyfriend, Jason Zalo. Jason was both a mortgage broker and real estate agent. Jason's mother, Shirley Zalo, and brother Ryan also worked for the same office. Shirley was the branch manager. So Lindsay was surrounded at work by people that she knew and trusted. In late January of 2008, Lindsay received a call on her cell phone from a woman she didn't know. The woman claimed that her husband was being transferred to Victoria and they were looking to buy a home within 3 days. They had a budget of $1 million. Lindsay jotted down what the woman mentioned she needed in a home: 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a large master bathroom. The woman also told Lindsay that she needed to have a home with separate living space for a housekeeper. Although the woman had supplied detailed information about what she wanted in a home, Lindsay was suspicious of the caller. She asked the woman how she had gotten her phone number, and the caller told Lindsay that one of Lindsay's previous clients had referred her. The call made Lindsay uneasy. She tried to contact the previous client who had supposedly referred the woman, but she couldn't reach them. Lindsay told her boyfriend, his mom, and her father about the calls, and even mentioned that the caller had what she felt was a fake Spanish accent. She referred to the mysterious clients as the Mexicans. Jason told Lindsay that she should take the appointment because it would be a really good commission for her, but added that he would go along with her so she wouldn't be nervous. Lindsay's plan was that Jason would be there, meet the clients, and take care of their mortgage needs if required, and give Lindsay a sense of safety as Jason is a large man and an ex-semi-pro hockey player. While still concerned, the plan put Lindsay at ease enough that she started looking for properties that matched the requirements given by the caller. She found the perfect property in the suburb of Saanich, British Columbia. Located at 1702 the Sousa Place, stood a beautiful home on a quiet cul-de-sac that seemed to be a perfect match for the buyer's requirements, and came in with an asking price of just under $1 million. Arrangements were made between Lindsay and her mysterious new clients to meet on Saturday, February 2nd at 5:30 p.m. as they were coming directly off the ferry from the mainland, British Columbia, to Vancouver Island. Before the showing, Lindsay and Jason had ate a late lunch together at a restaurant called Sauce and left at just about 4:30. Driving separately, Lindsay headed home to change her clothes before the showing, and Jason went to meet clients. He also met another friend at an auto shop. The plan was that they would both meet Lindsay at the property in time to meet the clients for the 5:30 showing, but Jason texted Lindsay to let her know he was running a few minutes late. She responded with text of her own. Closed-circuit television at the shop where Jason picked up his friend showed Jason pulling out of the location at 5:30 p.m. At around that time, Lindsay was at the property, and witnesses supposedly saw her greeting a couple, a man and a woman. They were shaking hands if they were meeting for the first time. The woman seen with Lindsay was described by witnesses as being blonde, between 35 and 45, and wearing a very distinct red, white, and black dress. The man was described as being well-dressed, white, 6 feet tall, with dark hair. After Lindsay and the couple exchanged greetings, they headed inside the house. At about 5:40, Jason and his friend pulled up in front of the house and noticed a man and woman just coming out of the front door. When the couple saw Jason's car, they turned around and walked back inside the home. The two men sat in front of the home in a cul-de-sac for about 10 minutes. Jason then decided to move his car to the side street adjacent to the home so that he would be parked alongside it rather than parked in front of it. They sat there for about 10 more minutes before Jason decided to send Lindsay a text to make sure everything was okay. He didn't get a reply. After a few minutes, Jason felt that something might be wrong, so he decided to go up to the front door and found it locked. He knocked, but didn't get a reply. Jason peeked in through the molded glass on the front door, but his view inside was distorted, although he could see Lindsay's shoes sitting on the floor in the entrance to the hallway. He couldn't see any movement inside, so he called 911. While he was on the phone, his friend looked over the patio fence and observed the patio door wide open. The friend called out to Jason that the patio door was open, and Jason told the 911 operator that they were going inside as he ended the call. Jason boosted his friend over the fence, and the friend made his way through the home and to the front door. He unlocked it, and Jason forcefully entered through the front door, pushing his friend out of the way. Jason then raced upstairs, directly to the master bedroom where he found Lindsay lying on the floor in a pool of blood. He frantically called 911, and police EMTs were immediately dispatched. Investigators concluded that she had been stabbed in excess of 40 times, mostly to her upper torso and chest, and her throat had also been slit. There were no defensive wounds. All of Lindsay's belongings were accounted for, and she had not been sexually assaulted. Investigators initially suspected Jason and his friend after finding Jason covered in blood, holding Lindsay, and took the two men into custody. The Saanich Police Department handled about 1 homicide per year, so this type of brutal murder was out of the ordinary for them. After initial suspicion of the two men and finding witnesses that saw Lindsay meeting with the mysterious couple, they surmised that Jason and his friend couldn't have murdered Lindsay. Jason was given and passed a lie detector test according to police. However, they requested his DNA, and to this day, he refuses to give it. Despite that, police have publicly stated that Jason Zalo is not a suspect. The prime suspects in this case were the clients that were with Lindsay at the house showing, and investigators focused on them. Police also state Lindsay was targeted and her murder was a murder for hire involving killers and conspirators. Police had a vague physical description, and what stood out to the eyewitnesses was the colorful dress that the female suspect was wearing. That dress turned out to be one that was sold in many stores, so it didn't really help. Most importantly, the police had Lindsay's cell phone and its call records. The police theory was that the couple was exiting from the home following the murder when they saw Jason outside and turned around heading back into the house and escaping through the back door. Jason thought that the showing was just starting, according to police investigator Chris Horsley. During the attack on Lindsay, police discovered that her phone made a call out, but police felt it was likely a pocket dial and not a call for help, and based their time of murder on that. More importantly to investigators, they had a phone number for the mysterious couple, a phone number that they had called Lindsay from. They were able to trace the number to a cell phone which was purchased in Vancouver months before Lindsay's murder. The phone had never been used until the woman called Lindsay. The phone had been activated under the name Paulo Rodriguez, but authorities believed that to be a fake name. However, the phone was registered to a real address in Vancouver, but the address was for a business that wound up having no connection to Lindsay's case according to police. Soon after Lindsay's murder, the phone was deactivated, and has never been used since. Using pings from the cell phone towers, police learned that the phone had been on a ferry from Vancouver the day before the murder. So it's very likely that this phone was bought and used for the sole purpose of carrying out the murder of Lindsay Buziak. Investigators felt that Lindsay's murder had been planned well in advance, but why was she murdered? Who would want her dead? Police, as they do in most murder cases, look at those closest to Lindsay, her inner circle of family and friends. But that seemed to be a dead end. Before Lindsay's boyfriend Jason was rolled out, they noted that his family had ties to construction on the cul-de-sac where Lindsay was killed, and to criminals. But they publicly cleared the entire family as suspects. Investigators also looked at Lindsay's ex-boyfriend, but he was cleared too as a suspect early on. Not finding any clear motive for Lindsay's murder, or any viable suspects, police considered whether Lindsay might have been involved in any illegal activities, but found no such connections. In the end, police were left puzzled as to who hired someone to murder Lindsay Buziak, and why. Since 2008, Lindsay's case has been discussed in countless news articles and on several TV shows and podcasts. Every February, Jeff Buziak leads a walk to honor the memory of his daughter and keep her case in the public eye. Jeff also runs the website LindsayBuziakMurder.com, which details Lindsay's case and includes relevant information, theories, and a list of people and details that may be related to Lindsay's murder. Jeff Buziak was kind enough to join us to discuss the murder of his daughter, Lindsay.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm pretty darn good. How about you?
Good, I'm doing okay. I'm glad you can join me today. Jeff, I just want to welcome you to the show. I really appreciate you coming on to talk about Lindsay's case. I know it's something you've been working on for a long time, and you're hoping for answers, so I'm glad to have you on to talk to you about the case.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, Mike. It's been over 10 years now that I've basically dedicated majority of my time to trying to find out who murdered my daughter and bring them to justice. We need to put more effort into these kind of situations. They seem to be cropping up more and more and more. And I really feel for families out there who are in the same boat I'm in. It's devastating. It's really a tough situation. And I think more pressure has to be put on politicians and the police to expedite this. The message out there right now, certainly in Lindsay's case, is you can get away with murder. So I'd like to see that changed. I think we were due arrests a long, long time ago. 10 years, as far as I'm concerned, is a way too long. So anything I can do to accelerate that, I'm willing to do, and I really appreciate what you're doing, Mike. It helps tremendously.
Yeah, no problem. And one good thing about Lindsay's case is that it has gotten some media attention. It's been on different shows, different podcasts have covered it. But it's got its own Reddit thread, so it's definitely been one of the cases that does have some momentum as far as that goes. But even with all of that out there, we don't really know a lot about who Lindsay was as a person. Can you tell us a little bit about who she was, you know, what her dreams were, what she was hoping to accomplish with her life?
Well, I certainly can. You know, there are lots of people around close by Lindsay that certainly know who she is. And, you know, she was a vivacious, bright, shining star. Certainly one of those people that lit up a room. I know that's said quite a bit, but she had that about her. She had that sparkle about her. She was really nice to everyone, and she liked to be friendly with everyone. She wanted to make friends with everybody. Consequently, she had lots and lots and lots of friends, lots of close friends. She was well known in the community, certainly in her age group. That was widespread. She had met so many people through school and other social activities. So she was born and raised in that community and stayed there. So her threads went deep there. Lots of people still call me and tell me, you know, how beautiful she was as a person. And, of course, she was very attractive. But she was just one of those people that made friends very easily. People wanted to be her friend. She was very upbeat, very positive. She kept her downtime private. But she certainly liked to be happy all the time. And consequently, that's how she lived her life. And that attracted all kinds of people. I mean, we're all attractive to positive people, bright, happy, because that's who we want to be. So Lindsay was a natural at that. And real estate was certainly something that was very natural for her. It wasn't hard work per se. For her, it was socializing, which she did so naturally. I've always said that, I used to admire that in her. I would just take me aback to watch her in a social situation. She was just so comfortable with people, know how to put them at ease, know how to be friends with them. And I always said to both my daughters that they got the best of their mom and I. And, thankfully they didn't get my bad parts. But Lindsay was just spectacular. Really caring, loving, bright, vivacious, positive, happy, lots of fun.
And as a parent myself, I can't even begin to know what it's like to get to know the news that, your child is dead, let alone that they've been murdered. How did you and your family deal with getting that kind of horrible news?
It's not something I like to review, quite frankly, but it's brutal. It's brutal. It totally guts you, devastates you, confuses you, overwhelms you to the point where, when I was told, it was very early in the morning, due to some bumbling by police, of course. I didn't find out for 12 hours later because I live 1,000 kilometers away, or 600 miles away. And my ex-wife called me 12 hours later just to talk to me when she got a control of her emotions and her senses, assuming that I knew, and I didn't. So it was very hard for me to comprehend. At first, it's not comprehensible. You don't think it's a reality, but it hits you very hard. You know it's there. So for me, of course, you cry. I literally hit the deck. I'm not a crying guy. I was a crybaby when I was a little kid, and then after that, I wasn't. It takes a lot to get me to cry. And I was sobbing, bawling. I was on the floor. I probably didn't get off the floor for a couple hours or more. I don't even know. It was devastating. I grabbed my phone, made a few phone calls, but it hits you very hard. You're numb. You're stunned. I think it doesn't leave you. That's always there. I know talking to people at times, I still can break down, cry, tears, and you wonder, when do you run out of tears? When do you run out of crying for the situation? I don't think you do, and you learn to manage that, and but it often, not often. At times, it hits you hard. I remember recently, I was checking air pressure and the tires on my vehicle, and I had the door open, the radio was on, and this song came on that was very dear to me, and I actually fell on the ground and started crying, uncontrollably almost. So you don't know sometimes when it's going to strike you, but it's devastating. Certainly the first year, you're just a wreck, you're a mess. And beyond that for lots, statistically, and I've spoken to people that deal with this kind of stuff, well over 40% of the people who have loved ones murdered never return to a normal type of life. They remain devastated. So whether it's PTSD or depression or all that kind of stuff. There's a huge proportion of that group that abuse alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, non-prescription drugs. There's suicide, there's depression, there's mental illness. Well over 40%. It's a very, very, very difficult thing to deal with. I truly feel for all the people who are in the situation that Lindsay's family and I are in.
So you're thrust in this situation where you have to deal with Lindsay's death, but then you've also have to deal with the frustration that nobody is arrested for a murder. In the aftermath, how much did the investigators keep you up to date with what was going on and keep you involved in the investigation immediately afterwards?
Well, zero. That's an easy question to answer. Zero. They give you lip service. They're supposed to have a schedule or talk to you weekly, monthly, whatever it is they tell you they're going to do. They don't. And they get tired of doing it. They don't want to do it. They don't like to hear from you. It's probably one of the, besides all the murder and trying to chase killers and my life's been threatened, and the police need education, because probably the single most source of stress, disappointment comes from the police. And that's pretty general with people that I speak to that are in the same situation I'm in. I've spoken at a few conferences now, and people are desperate and they just talk about their frustration with police. And police are stuck on their methods that are ingrained in them, and they will not change. I know a certain amount of it is based on law, that they can't give us details of the case. They can't tell us everything they're doing. I get that. But the way they take care of their responsibility to keep in touch with the family, certainly in my case, it's been poor to horrible at times, to the point last summer I was threatened by the police. I had a visit. They flew out the 1,000 kilometers from Victoria. 2 officers, one wouldn't identify himself, came to my office unannounced. I didn't know they were coming, and said, "Stop what you're doing, have that website shut down, or we're going to discredit you and destroy you."
Wow, that's shocking. That's something you don't hope to hear in this kind of case. You're hoping for support. So for you to get that kind of response is pretty scary.
It is scary, because I look at it like the police act the same as the gangsters do, except they smile about it, and they've got badges and guns that are legal.
And you mentioned to your website, I just want to touch on that. At some point you felt that you needed to set up a website to sort of take on the case on your own. And the website is lindsaybuziakmurder.com. You've done a really good job compiling a timeline for the case, photos, that kind of stuff. But you've taken it a bit further, and you've done your own investigating, and you're not afraid to name some people that you think might be connected to Lindsay's case. Without naming names, if you can, tell us about the list of people that you think might be connected to the case and why you think that.
Well, it's quite easy for me, and Mike, I don't think you should be concerned if I name names. I'm the father of murdered young lady. I'm entitled to have my opinion. I'm entitled to say what my truth is, and I do. And so people take that as like some kind of revelation that I'm really edgy and over the top with it. I'm not. I speak my truth, and if I think somebody's involved, I say who it is, and I'm entitled to do that. So I don't live in this whole fear thing that a lot of people have. Yes, if I insult somebody, physically, or say they're rotten at their job, or attack them, on a personal basis, how they look or things like that. Yeah, that's not appropriate. That's probably has some legal consequences. I don't do that. I say what's on my mind. I say, I think so-and-so is involved. And I have a legal right to do that. I'm entitled to my opinion. And people in the U.S. know that more than anybody else. I mean, as much as we don't want to go back too far in history, but I admire guys like Larry Flint who fought for the freedom to be able to speak what's on your mind. As long as it's within some boundaries. And I try and stay within those boundaries all the time. So coming back to the website, I didn't establish the website. I've had some fantastic volunteers over the years that have worked tirelessly with me on this. I don't like to look like I've done all this and it's all been me. It hasn't. I have just fabulous people helping me all the time. I speak to them daily. And some come, some go. It switches around. So the website goes way back to Facebook. And actually, a 12-year-old girl set it up. And it got very controversial. So I kind of took over from her with her permission and informing her. And she was quite glad to hand it over. And then we evolved that with some volunteers into a Lindsay site, which we all managed. And then Facebook got unhappy with us, and they started blocking me, and they didn't like what we were doing. So we were just evolving and bumbling. This wasn't any planned strategic thing. Volunteers I had at the time, wonderful women. I said, we need to set up a website. And neither were computer skilled to any degree. And we just figured it out. We came up with ideas. They would research, do the investigation, figure out how to set it up. And that kind of evolved. And, they ran it for years. I tried to stay a bit hands-off. And then slowly over time, I became more hands-on. And, yes, now I do take care of it over the last better part of a year, probably. So that's kind of a quick history of that. It's really been an evolution. You don't know what to do here. There's no training. There's no manuals. There's nothing where you go out on Google, what do I do to solve a murder? What happened with me, Mike, was early on when I was moping around, feeling sorry for myself, and I don't mean to offend anybody here that's in the same situation I'm in. But I was very troubled, of course, by Lindsay's murder, and I was taking it all on personally, and, depressed, PTSD, whatever, call everything that was going on. And I just said, no, I can't do that anymore. And one day I looked in the mirror, and it was pretty early on, and I just said, what are you doing? What are you doing, you pathetic guy? I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody. With myself, and I just said to myself, I wasn't the one at that house. I wasn't the one being stabbed. I wasn't the one who had my throat slit. That was Lindsay. What the hell am I doing moping around about it? Get off your butt and do something, buddy. That was my turning point. That was my talk to myself. It's not about me. It's not about me. Not about me. It's about Lindsay. It's about that precious 24-year-old child of mine, young woman out there working. Everybody makes all this scenario about, drug busts and this and these guys. No. This was a wonderful, beautiful young lady at work. Some dirty, rotten scoundrels took advantage of that, set her up, and massacred her, execution style, while she was working. This is about a young woman being killed while working. That's what this is about. It's not about anything else.
So you're getting the word out about her case and about the truths in the case, and I assume you have a lot of positive people interacting with you on the website. But I know you've also had some people coming to the site that were there for not good reasons, I guess. I think last year in August, somebody had left a message on your site claiming responsibility for murdering Lindsay. Tell us a little bit about what happened with that.
Well, it's something that I wouldn't say you get used to, but I'm certainly prepared for the unexpected. I made a post on Facebook the other night, and it gets tremendous response. We had one person come on that's very disparaging. It's a situation you have to learn how to accept to begin with. Accept it. It's there. There's people like that. We have doubters out there. We have people that want to join in on Lindsay's murder and the effort we put into it to twist it around and turn it into their spotlight and swing people around onto their issues. And I won't allow that. I'll allow a certain amount of free speech, and then after that, I'm just go away. I have a lot of people that try and draw me into their thing. I have a lot of people that they just want to be negative and argue and, just those types. And I won't let them bring me down. And I won't let them get me off focus. I'll try and be understanding and patient to a degree. And probably for me, it's not much. I need to keep focused on Lindsay's murder. I've devoted everything to that. I have wonderful volunteers. So we get the odd disparaging person or the odd, whatever you want to call them, show up. It's something you deal with. You move on. You move on. We're dealing with today, tomorrow, not what happened 5 minutes ago. I just have to keep moving forward. And so that's what we do with those people. And of course they complain because I push forward, and if they try and stand in front of me, I just keep going. People that approach me or that try and get involved that are negative, I've learned how to deal with that. I've learned not to let them bring me down. I need to keep the focus on Lindsay's unsolved murder. So we move forward, and if they get in the way, we move through them, over them, whatever's required. There'll be a certain amount of patience and understanding, and then when that's done, it's please move aside or we go over top of you. That's maybe as bad as that sounds, that's the way it works. We've got a murder to solve, not sort out issues with people and what they think and don't think. Look, I know I'm not doing everything right. I know sometimes maybe I'm on the ragged edge or doing things that affect people. I'm more than willing to apologize to anyone that I've offended that's proven to be innocent. I have no problem with that at all. But as far as I'm concerned, the responsibility of this mess lies square on the shoulders of the police. And if there's any offending or hurting or whatever goes on, totally their responsibility. If they would have had this murder solved in an expeditious manner, none of this would be going on. There'd be no podcast. There'd be no disparaging people. There would be no criticism of what I do, which is very little, actually. And I'm not saying that bragging. I'm saying that because that is the truth. Most of it is like hundreds, thousands of positive people that want to help. They want to do something. And we have such a small, minute percentage that just want to be schmucks. And we don't have time for schmucks.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. You've got a mission that you want to focus on and not be held back by the trolls. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this. So, let's say somebody out there is listening and they have a murdered daughter or murdered father or brother. What advice would you give them based on your own experience?
Well, certainly what I said earlier, which is a really tough thing, I think, for a lot of people to do, that it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about Lindsay. And I try and keep that in my mind. So get counseling, take care of what I was taught called HALT, HALT. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Make sure you're very aware of those at all the time. So if you're feeling down and out, check that out. For me, which is not for a lot of people, I do something about it. That makes me feel better. Not a lot of people are able to do that, but I certainly recommend that. I did a lot of counseling, over 6 years of counseling right after Lindsay's murder. So we learn through our counseling and understanding it better is one very first thing you have to accept, that they're gone and they're not coming back. That's the very first thing. Certainly, what you have to realize is that you're going to go through stages. You're going to go through really dark stages and really dark places. And when you think you're coming out of that, you're going to fall back into that again. You have to be patient with yourself. You have to understand that. And you have to understand some of the principles I was taught a long time ago, that it'll pass. It'll pass. It doesn't go away. You learn how to manage murder is what you do. You learn how to manage it. It never goes away. Never. So what I try and do, and it takes a lot of mental training, and you have to stay vigilant, is my grief is private, and I do that in privacy. Murder is business, and I'm very serious about it. Very serious about murder. It's business. So people that try and scare me, threaten me, make me feel bad, I don't allow that. That fires me up. And I will chew them up. It's business. It's business. Serious business is what murder is for me. So really my principle started with, it's not about me. Secondly, I divide it up into grief, which is private, personal, and I do that in privacy. And when I deal with murder, it's business. It's business, serious business for me. I do not drink, take drugs, medication of any kind, don't smoke pot, none of that stuff. I love the outdoors, so I try and spend as much time as I can there. You have to find your thing. I fly hang glider, and I teach hang gliding. I love riding motorcycle. So I have activities that I do, I cut out, and when I do them, typically those activities that I do don't allow me to stay in contact with people because my phone is going constantly. So when I'm 10,000 feet in the air in a hang glider, I'm not answering my cell phone. It's not on. It's not with me. When I'm riding my motorcycle, no cell phone. I'm not dealing with murder, except maybe the thoughts I have in my mind. So you have to find something that, if nothing else, distracts you. Please don't turn to drugs and alcohol. They don't solve any problems. We all know that. So that's been my deal. I didn't go on medication. If that's what people need, I have no issues with that. Sometimes it's required. I made a conscious decision years ago that I wanted to deal with life on life's terms, so I don't self-medicate with anything. I just, so to speak, gut it out and try and find other ways of solution. So the other thing is, I believe you need to find some kind of faith, because your faith is totally lost when your loved one is murdered. And of course, first thing I did was look up and go, what's going on here? So your faith in whatever it is, whether it's religion, the universe, karma, whatever that is, embrace that. Please embrace that, because that's really all you'll have. And so my faith is super strong. And I have people phone me or contact me or meet with me and try and talk to me about faith. And that offends me, actually, because they should be asking me questions about that. And I don't say that arrogantly. But if I didn't have some kind of faith in the universe or whatever it is, I would probably go kill who I think killed my daughter. But I have faith that justice will be served. And my job is to expedite that, assist in that, and do everything I possibly can to see that happen.
You've been doing it for so long now and been out there.
Right.
It's been 10 years now since Lindsay's murder. How close do you think the case is to possibly being solved? Does it still have a long ways to go, or do you think that there's something coming down the pike that could make this case suddenly be solved?
I think it's simple. I think, like any case, the police use the excuse that they need a confession. Well, I mean, it's the stupidest thing in the world you could say, because any kind of crime from the beginning of mankind is solved if somebody confesses. So when they tell me that, I just think, like, am I talking to 2-year-olds here? It just blows my mind when I hear stuff from the police like, this is a very complicated situation and it takes time. Well, no kidding. Like, it just drives me crazy what they say. It's mindless stuff. So Lindsay's case is about that far away from being solved if somebody confesses, of course. I do believe the police know what went on and they know who. And they just need a bit more. And what's been ingrained in police over the years is they reach a point where they say, okay, we've got everything, we've done everything, we just wait. Well, that doesn't work for me, because we all like to believe if they don't have what they need, they go look for it, work for it, try and get it. And I believe that's what they're being paid to do. That's what they're being trained to do. That's what they're given tools to do. They have all the tools that's required. They can spy on any of us. They can get authorization to do whatever the heck they want. So my opinion is, don't give me excuses. Go do your job. And unfortunately, they are one of the few remaining, if the only remaining, institutions in our society that are not accountable. Now, in the United States, your sheriff is elected, I gather, in police departments. So they're accountable. In Canada, in Saanich, where Lindsay was murdered, these guys are pushed up through the ranks, and it's their golden reward before retirement to boost their pension to get to be chief. And they're not accountable. We have written hundreds of letters from the Prime Minister of Canada to ministers, to the Premier of British Columbia, to the Attorney General, to the Solicitor General, to the Minister of Public Safety, to the Mayor, to you name it. We write to. Everybody passes the buck back to the police chief, saying they're responsible. And you go to the police chief, and he basically says, go home. Be quiet. We're working on it. Nobody holds them accountable except you, if you're in my situation. You do that by taking it public, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult. The blue pushes back when you make them accountable because they haven't been throughout history. Unless something drastic happens, they do what they feel like doing, and I've seen enough of them in the 10 years with meetings and lunches and budgets and holidays, and it drives you crazy what goes on there, and most of the time it's very little work. We watch TV and it looks like they're working around the clock, doing everything they possibly can. Well, not the case. Certainly not what I'm dealing with. They belong to a union. They work certain hours. They have time off. They don't exceed any of that stuff. Otherwise, they're frowned upon by other union members. They have to be treated in a certain manner, or there's a dispute by their union. The only one they seem to be having difficulty controlling is me. And they probably spend more time dealing with me than they do the case. And believe me, I am conscious of that and I analyze it. I keep them accountable is what I try to do, because they're not, and they don't work on it. They say they work on it, they're not. They're busy doing renovations. I had the head of Lindsay's file. He was project manager for renovations. He was a patrol commander. He was not working on Lindsay's file. Nobody was. But if the press go to them and they say, oh, we follow up on every lead, we take this very seriously, this is an active case, we are working on it. No, they're not. No, they're not. Active is just a word they use to keep the media and the family away from the file. If it goes cold, the media and the family has access to certain details of the file. They tried that. They'll say, they told me it was a cold case year 2. I said, give me the file, give me the information. They had a meeting and said, oh, it's active now. So they'll never make Lindsay's case cold because they know I'm standing right at their doorstep saying, give me the file. So they won't. So it's active. But are they working on it? No.
Well, and that must be frustrating because you're sort of going in circles, it seems like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what would you change, or what can be changed to make it so that they are, actively pursuing a resolution to Lindsay's case?
Well, they need to be held accountable. They need to be like any other organization in society, whether it's corporate or public. They need to have goals, mandates, reports, those sorts of things that have to come through. They aren't accountable to anybody. They're accountable to the police board for their budgets. That's about it. As far as what they do in policing, there's no accountability. They need to have goals, they need to meet them, and they have to report about them, and they're not doing that. Certainly not to the family, and not to the mayor, who's head of the police board. So that's what needs to be changed. I use an example here where some gangsters shot each other in public, broad daylight one day, which goes on all the time in British Columbia. They brought in 1,200 officers from 13 different divisions, and I think they had everybody in court in 18 months. Okay. Lindsay's case, wonderful young woman working, we got a couple officers sniffing around. Well, where are those 1,200? Isn't that somehow reversed? Gangsters get all the resources? Do we get a couple officers, which they switch regularly because they use Lindsay's murder as a training case as well? So they have people coming off patrol becoming detectives, and they put them on the case so that they learn how to be a detective. Do you know the day before Lindsay's murder, 7 senior officers at Saanich Police retired, Two of them were their senior interrogators and investigators. They did not call anyone back. No one back. 7 retired. It's just horrendous what they've done. And as far as I'm concerned, they've bungled the case. And that's probably part of the delay of us getting arrests. They have to fix things up.
Well, let me ask you this, Jeff. One thing that's very important is if somebody does have information or does have a tip that they think could help close out Lindsay's case, where can they go to share that information?
Well, certainly they can contact me, because then I make sure it gets to the police. Or they can contact Saanich Police, which is saanichpolice.ca. And you can look them up on the website. I don't have the 1-800 number here memorized. But I'm very accessible. Google my name, go to the lindsaybuziakmurder.com site. I believe my phone number's there, my email address is there. Everything I get that's pertinent to her case is sent to Saanich Police. They appointed a contact for me in a new contact with me because the last one threatened me. So I was appointed a new contact in, I think it was March of this year. I've never heard from the person, the officer who was appointed to be my contact. Never heard from him. So I don't know what he's doing or what's going on. So right now I send everything to the police chief. And, praise to the chief. He responds. The previous contact I had didn't respond or responded weeks later, or I'd have to phone him 2 times and he'd give me 2 seconds on the phone while he was arriving at his doorstep after work, as if I was asking him for a friend favor or something. And say, did you get this stuff? And he'd go, well, yeah, let me have a look. Yeah, I think I got that. Yeah, it was crazy. At least the chief, when I send it to him, he sends an email back and says, thank you, I'll pass it on. Wow, isn't that a miracle?
So at least you're getting some kind of response, so that's the least they can do.
Well, Mike, very frustrating, because for a certain period of time I would get no response. I just accepted that. I kept saying it's a one-way street, just send, don't get anything back. And then finally I took the officer, this staff sergeant, Chris Horsley, to task one day and said, I'm talking to you about things here and it doesn't seem like you understand what I'm talking about. And he goes, no, I don't. I said, well, I sent you all that stuff. He says, well, I didn't get it. Well, I don't know that if he's not responding to me. And so he checked, and it was in junk mail. Wow. I said, you guys are the police. You actually have a junk mail level that you set. He goes, yeah, of course. I just went, oh my God. Like, how many people have tried to contact you and it's gone to junk mail? Wow. Maybe the case could have been solved a long time ago. Wow. I do get complaints from people regularly that they've contacted the police, they've never heard back from them. So when I do get that, of course, I go directly to the chief. And usually he does something about it.
But we know for sure we'll send them to lindsaybuziakmurder.com, and then you can put it right in their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. So we could have resolution any day. If the police got off their butts and went and rattled a few heads and went and threatened some people like they did me last August, it would probably be solved. The other way for this case to be solved is I go out there and break the law. And I just haven't been prepared to take that step in the past 10 years. I know it's there. I don't want to cross that line. I want to have faith in my country, in the laws of the country, and in justice in the country. And that's real faith, because 10 years, there's been nothing. 10 years. So that's faith, that it's going to happen. I don't deal with hope. I deal with it's going to happen.
Well, I hope you're right, Jeff, and I really hope that your family does get the answers that you deserve.
The public needs it as well, the community. I mean, we need to know we're protected.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Murder in My Family. If you enjoy this podcast, please take a moment to rate and review it on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast, so that the show can continue to grow and reach new listeners. To learn more about the show or the cases we discuss, please visit themurderinmyfamily.com. You can also find us on Twitter or on Facebook. If you'd like to support the show on Patreon, it's always appreciated, and you can do so by visiting patreon.com/themurderinmyfamily. In each episode, I give a shout out to any new Patreon supporters. For this episode, I'd like to thank Chrissy Sullivan, Justine Kennedy, Morgan Murphy, and Allison Foreman Rickard. If you prefer to, you can also support the show through a PayPal donation by visiting paypal.me/themurderinmyfamily. As we wrap up this episode, be sure to check out previews for 2 true crime podcasts I think you'll really enjoy, from 2 of my podcast friends, Robin and Cambo, who host The Trail Went Cold and True Crime Island. Until next time, remember, every murder victim means something to somebody.
If you would like to discuss the murder in your family on this podcast, please be sure to visit themurderinmyfamily.com for more information.
Hello everyone, this is Robin Warder, host of the true crime podcast, The Trail Went Cold. If you grew up watching the classic television show Unsolved Mysteries, then this is the podcast for you. Each week, I profile a new unsolved murder or missing persons case and share all the baffling details. Afterward, I provide my own personal analysis and theories about what might have happened. This is a show for true crime buffs who are fascinated by cold cases and love to discuss them and pick them apart in an attempt to figure out the truth. So be sure to check out our podcast to learn about some truly bizarre unsolved mysteries where the trail went cold.
Do you get mad when listening to true crime? Well, so do I. If you want a weekly true crime podcast that says what you're thinking, then grab a beer and pull up a deck chair. This is Cambo from True Crime Island, another true crime podcast, and maintain the rage with me. Visit truecrimeisland.com where you can download or stream each episode, plus there's links to iTunes and social media. And as I always say, don't forget to delete your browser history. This is True Crime Island.